All right, Stewie and I, Noah was out there. Went out to day one of LSU spring football practice, and it was good to be back out on the practice field. First thing that jumps out is construction, right? When you win, things happen. Buildings go up. And LSU, as we talked to Bo Lowry, is under construction there in one of their practice fields. If you've ever been out to the LSU football facility, right? I mean, it's state of the art. It's first class. It is something that, you can use as a model really throughout college sports and professional sports. I mean, there's some people around Burrow and Chase that looked around the Bengals facility and say, look, this is nothing like we had back in college. But with LSU now at the practice field, if you've seen it, there's always been 4 practice fields kind of back to back one another. The practice field, if you were to kind of walk in from the front entrance on the back left, is now under construction. That is going up with a new medical facility that Bo Lowry explained when he was in here last week before he took off and went to Denver on what that's going to encapsulate, that's going to entail, what it's going to feature, things like stretching rooms and sleep chambers and really kind of a recovery type of facility that we're starting to see in a lot of, professional sports and high-level, brands of college sports like LSU football.
Can we get sleep chambers here in the studio?
I wish.
That would be nice.
Wouldn't it?
I would love to get...
Where's Jordy? He's in the sleep chamber.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to get a study of my sleep done.
Right.
Oh, my God. I can't even imagine what that's like.
Jeez.
Kelly could probably give us a study of your sleep.
He doesn't sleep.
You don't need to go to a professional.
Doesn't sleep. But, that's the first thing that jumps out. Construction, you're winning. You're, like LSU being, a part of, the discussion. It feels like now with Brian Kelly in the lead year in, year out as a contender, more facilities, more expansion, more things to recruit towards, more advantages to have as far as recruiting is concerned. Speaking of recruiting, when we walked out there, Colin Hurley was standing right next to a couple of the recruiting staffers walking around field to field, and that's the young quarterback out of Florida who is pledged to the class in a couple of cycles. He's already down here in Baton Rouge establishing relationship with coaches through recruiting. Not only that, the kid is huge.
He's so impressive, too.
Very impressive.
The way he speaks and interviews.
Very impressive to speak with him.
Mm-hmm.
But, just the size and, he's still, it feels like, he's only 16 years old. We'll have still a chance to even go through another growth spurt. But all of that, and then you get to the field, obviously. And, look, they're missing some guys, as we kind of described the layout of the practice field. They were really only using 2 of the fields, right? The offense and defense were working on the field, but on the corner field that kind of sits in front of the one that was under construction featured a lot of the injured players that were going through just conditioning. They were just going through cardio and trying to keep in shape. And the first person that jumps out is Big Zero, Mason Smith. Smith is he's running his he's on that leg. He's definitely bouncing off that leg and looks like as if he's going to be well ready for fall camp. He was dressed out with shoulder pads, had helmet on, is just enormous.
Such a large guy.
Dude. He blocks the sun when he runs. He's enormous, man. You think about how good that defense was last year.
Mm-hmm.
And that you lost him so early it's wild to think. What he could have been to that. But coulda, shoulda, woulda. He looks like he's definitely going to be ready to play this year, and it sounds like he's got a hit list. It sounds like he's on a revenge tour, that he's looking forward to getting back onto the field, and that's the first thing. The other thing that jumps out right next to him is Deshaun Womack.
Mm-hmm. This freshman class is they all fit in.
They're huge.
Yeah, they are.
They are.
They don't look like
huge,
freshmen,
man. Did you see Taviano? I mean, Javion Taviano with the DBs he looks day one ready to play.
Who's the other six? Ryan Yates.
Ryan Yates.
Looks like he's day
Jordan
one.
Allen's put on some weight. He looks good. But those two guys, it was Deshaun Womack, Mason Smith running right next to each other. And then Armani Goodwin was out there with them as well, going through some conditioning. And, it gives you an idea of the talent that's missing here in the spring. And it was concerning to hear, Brian Kelly remark yesterday on John Emery, who's missing spring here due to some academic reasons where, you just hope at some point the light bulb goes off for Emery. But here's the deal with this year's team is that they're not in the desperation spot that they were last season, right? Where, you had to have bodies. You had to have guys. You had to go get Noah Cain from Penn State. You had to go get other guys that could come in here and carry the ball. Now, you've got two freshmen that are in. One's already in, and Trey Holly, who's out there working out with the team.
Forgot about him.
Presently, he's there. As far as the stats go, really someone who had an incredible storybook career out of North Louisiana in high school is now playing for LSU. He's down here. Obviously, Josh Williams, he's as close to being back as any of them are. Goodwin will be there in the fall. He'll miss the remainder of spring. And then, Caleb Jackson will be here coming from Liberty in the fall as well. Now you've got numbers.
So you're saying he can be replaced?
Absolutely.
That's such a shame.
I would think right now, Emery is just he's just, if you have him, you have him. It's probably how they're thinking of him.
I like him so much.
Yeah, he's a great kid. He's a great dude. But it still means that you got to take care of your business to get on the field.
You'll miss his playmaker, from the running back position.
Absolutely. For sure. But I think that they think they can compensate that. Yeah. I think that's something that they can still win without is what they're thinking.
Does he have a chance? Can he get back
sure.
in? Can he get himself right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe we need to bring him in and sit him down.
It's on him. Maybe you should talk to him.
I'm going to talk to him.
But one thing that jumps out is that the running back spot could, from a number standpoint, is going to, to be in a better spot, right? And then, obviously your eyes go to the quarterback, and you don't see much from the quarterbacks when you go in there for the 20-minute allotted period where they're just going through individual drills. And yesterday they were working alongside Joe Sloan, and, Sloan had them going through a couple of footwork and delivery drills where, obviously they all looked well throwing the ball. I'll tell you what, Ricky Collins, that's the type of stuff that, he does very well is, kind of work out and just go through throwing drills. The ball still, it doesn't matter if he's in high school or college, it still jumps out of his hand. It's going to be interesting to see him, just going through each and every day in watching Nussmeier and Daniels get prepared to play, because it's obvious that's what it is. And, we talked a little bit about it yesterday of, whether or not they were in a quarterback competition. And I was down in New Orleans and did Inside New Orleans with Eric Asher yesterday, and that was a lot of the discussion that they were focused on, down there and talking about LSU as what they were going to do at the quarterback spot. And, I think we've talked about it time and time again, but, Daniels has done enough to, be named the number one quarterback on this team going into it. But I think on the field, the competition began yesterday. Because I think there is, without question, there's competition. Brian Kelly said so earlier this week when speaking, about his team to the Advocate. He laid out that, Jaden Daniels is the number one quarterback on this team, but Garrett Nussmeier has, put himself in a position where he's deserved to get number one reps, to see if he can earn the spot. That in itself is announcing that there's a quarterback competition. I don't know why people are so hard of not accepting or not realizing that, this spot is definitely up for grabs. Jaden Daniels played phenomenally in 2022 the way that LSU was constructed, but they're just a different team now. You know, another guy that I think has a real good opportunity here in spring and is not going to get a lot of attention, and is somebody that I think LSU behind the scenes is very much recruiting to keep on the roster, is Marlon Martinez. This offensive line that we've talked about so much over the last couple of, weeks, months, year, of how they've really kind of restored themselves and rebuilt the entire line with, high-end players and depth. Martinez played as good as anybody down the stretch, specifically in the bowl game last season, and really set himself up to possibly be in a competition with Charles Turner for the starting center spot. Turner now, of course, the guy who started the majority of the games last year, all of them pretty much, at that center spot, is going to miss spring, and Martinez has a great opportunity here to go through and see if he can't put himself into the mix of being in the discussion in the fall. If he's not, he could be somebody that jumps into the transfer portal when it reopens after spring drills. I think LSU, even Brian Kelly yesterday when he was speaking and asked directly about Martinez, the first thing he said is that we'd love him to stay. I mean, if he's saying that to the public behind closed doors, that means that he's got, he's recruiting him and making sure that he understands, hey, LSU wants you. And that's what makes the offensive line group to me so appealing, is that they've got Will Campbell, they've got Emory Jones, they've got guys that have played a lot of football, but they've got some real industry type guys that can play in a multiple. Martinez can play guard, he can play center. He had a really good bowl preparation and lead up. He had a really good bowl game. He's had a good miniature offseason here, and what they've been asking him to do from the weight room standpoint. I mean, it feels like is on the doorstep of being able to get on the field and, really pushing Turner for that spot. So, that's another name just to kind of watch out for, of somebody that's, really kind of in a position battle and fighting for a roster spot that, if it works out, he could be a difference maker in the depth category when you look at the offensive line. And, if it doesn't, he could be somebody that jumps into the transfer portal here in a couple of weeks or a couple of months that, has LSU looking for more help. But, being out there yesterday, some of the freshmen definitely jumped out.
How about Ricky Collins?
Yeah, Ricky Collins. Yeah, I saw Ricky Collins. Like we said, just kind of naturally the ball just jumps out of his hand, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy. Taviano, as we mentioned, the defensive back out of Texas, who at times was ranked as a 5-star, and I think ended up as a 4-star. He looks the part. I thought Denver Harris looked phenomenal out there. Just physically. What's that?
I didn't see the corners. I only saw the safeties.
Yeah, they were kind of in that back corner.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to see what Harris looked like physically, and he definitely, another one that looks the part. It's a group that's very impressive from a physical standpoint. You can't take a lot away from this period of watching them for 20 minutes, when they're spread all over two fields and you have limited access of where you can get to. Some of the workouts are being are going on literally, like 200 yards away from you, a couple of football fields away from you. So it's tough to judge. But yesterday, we got a good look at, some of the defensive linemen were right in front of us. I expect that Savion Smith is going to have a just bust out season. He's another one that just physically should be the first off the bus. Quincy looked good. Quincy Wiggins looked good out there yesterday. The defensive line group is another one that's really that they're mashed up. They've got a couple of guys. They got a lot of guys that are missing out here on spring drills where they're going to look different once. We mentioned Mason Smith. We mentioned Deshaun Womack. Both those guys are going to look and make that group look a lot different once they become a part of the rotation and start working out and practicing with them. So, some of the just, quick takeaways when you get in there and see it for the first time, and try and snapshot everything you're seeing for your brain to be able to recap and bring back to life. Some of the new coaches were working out there. I like that Brian Kelly has kind of been open about that. It's going to be almost kind of a piecemeal of handling special teams, where you've got guys on staff that have certain skill sets and have worked in certain places and had certain jobs during their career where you can bring that stuff back to life here. And it looked as if the emphasis in hiring a special teams coach for LSU was really more put on being able to coach that jack linebacker spot. That the linebacker spot that Matt House needed some, not assistance with, just somebody else out there to help him, coach it up. And it looks like, that's really kind of what the main assignment was in trying to find this special teams coach. Because yesterday, you can see, first off, Harold Perkins wearing number 4.
Number 4.
Perk 4.
Looks
People
a little
are weird
bigger.
about that.
Yeah, he looks bigger.
He looks a little bigger.
A year in the weight room would do that to you.
Yeah.
Year of solid meals.
Well, 1 year in a college program where you're eating, you're taking part of the nutrition, you're going through and, taking part in the weight room. All of that. At 18, 19 years old, your body is waiting on that stuff.
Yeah.
If you were able to feed that to your 19-year-old frame, it's going to explode, especially like somebody that's built like Perkins. He just makes everything look so easy.
He really does. It's
You know,
amazing.
like there was a drill yesterday where they were, kind of footwork through the bags, where you're popping through the bags, moving laterally, and then the ball is kind of, squirted out to the field, and you have to kind of scoop it up, kind of playing downhill, and trying as a linebacker to get people's hands off of you, get off of that stuff, and go scoop it up. And the way that he makes that's a very difficult drill to just, pick up and execute. Now, these guys have done it thousands of times where, they're doing it pretty routinely now, but still, there's a lot of skill and concentration that goes into, picking your legs up, getting through the bags, and being able to break out of there and scoop a football up that's bouncing around in an open field. There's nothing that I can tell you about Harold Perkins that, is going to be anything new, other than he's just the same old dude. He looks and makes it look very simple to play the game of football, and it's not supposed to be like that. It's just not, it's not that easy of a game. And he's just very gifted and talented where, he goes through the routine drills of playing the sport and practicing it. And, he does it with his chin strap, he does it with his chin strap kind of unbuckled, his mouthpiece and his face mask. It's just, and not that he's disrespecting the game. It's just easy. It's just easy for him. And I would say that overwhelmingly for the practice, that it had that feel to it as well, that it was easy. And Brian Kelly said so much yesterday when he kind of wrapped it up at his press conference of, look, last year at this time, they were delaying spring drills. They were trying to fill out a roster. They were trying to teach people how to practice. They were teaching people, emotion, where people were still throwing their helmets on practice fields and throwing their hands up and screaming. Like Kelly was like saying, like, we had to go through a lot of, like creating the standard, creating of this is how we operate. There was a time period there where you're still like implementing stretch lines last year at this time on what you're going to look like when you even just take the field. For Brian Kelly, it was brand new. For, more than 60% of the roster, it was brand new. So there's one thing that's completely evident is that all of that stuff has been implemented. All of that stuff has been put into the program. all of the expectations are very well defined for the team to understand. You know, I mean, Michael Cobble, the sports director from WBRZ, we were standing around there yesterday for about 10, 15 minutes right before we were kind of called out to get out of practice. And I don't know if Cobble was kidding or if he was serious because, I mean, he was like, has anybody seen Brian Kelly? You know what I mean? And not that Kelly's missing that. I think it just kind of goes to show on, like, everybody knows where they're supposed to be. You know, Kelly's doing whatever he is, doing during that portion of practice. We just couldn't spot him where he was. But, I mean, it wasn't as if he's, yelling, screaming, can be heard, can be seen. He's over here working. He's allowing everybody to do their job because the expectations have been clearly laid out from the top down on what's expected. And this is how the program moves. This is how the program rolls. This is what is the day-to-day operations of building a championship contender. And, that jumps out. I was talking to Brody Miller. I mean, it's much more calm out there. It's much more, just people understanding what's supposed to be happening. We mentioned some of the new faces. Omar Spates is another one that I think is.
Where's he from?
Oklahoma State.
Okay.
Is it
Oregon State?
Oregon State.
Okay.
Yeah, but he looks like a tank.
Mm-hmm.
He's just
number one. Yeah, I mean
I wouldn't want to run into him.
He looks the part for
What's
sure.
he? What position is he?
Linebacker.
Okay.
Yeah, middle.
I thought Greg Penn looked pretty good yesterday.
Yeah.
I thought Greg Penn looked good yesterday.
Seasoned vet.
Yeah.
Greg Penn.
I mean, he's played a lot of football. Man.
I mean, Edo liked him a lot.
Yeah.
Talked about him every week. The freshman Greg Penn. Gonna be a great player for the Tigers.
I think he's gonna. This should be his. I mean, this is it.
Yeah.
I know he's not a senior, but I mean, if you're good, this is when you're supposed to be good.
Yeah.
If you're Greg Penn, so I think they're going to be okay at linebacker.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be all right at
Looks
linebacker.
like they got some
They
depth.
just can't. Yeah, right.
Whit Weeks looks good. Not Wes.
Witt was out there.
Yeah. I'm 40.
Yeah, okay. Tough number.
Yeah, tough number to take over.
That's
Why
a tough.
did, why did Perkins change to 4?
I guess because he
from
wanted
40?
Yeah, he wore 4 in high school.
Oh, okay. So who had 4 last year then?
Todd Harris.
Okay.
Yeah.
to. Todd Harris. Wow.
Dr. Todd.
Wow, Todd Harris. 8 years he spent at LSU.
I know. We had the same career.
He played with Billy Cannon.
Right.